Yep, sure. I can take a look at this for you. Um, so yeah, it's kind of cool. Uh, Basically, it's allowing you to embed uh, components into an existing application. You're pulling them in asynchronously from the Mason API. Uh, I can see several advantages to using something like this because you're a obviously actively trying to drive Yoga Trail by making practical updates to the website, and I know that it was always a frustration of yours having to go through a technical team to implement new things that you wanted to try, and this is potentially a way to allow you to keep moving forward. And then there's always the option to refactor anything that you create that really works, like a validated um, feature. You can then refactor that as a component fairly easily. There's no real drawback in doing that, I think. I thought what we'd do is just take a look at it in action. So there's a if you Google create Reactor, this is a little utility. It runs via npm Node Package Manager. Uh, Basically, if you install npm, then you can then run this command, uh, npx create React app, and then the name of your app. So you'd go into a code editor, like if I open a new tab, pwd. This is my current directory. It's uses Timothy Marwick. I'm going to cd change directory into sites, and then I would run this command here, create React app. npm create React app. Call it hi Alex. Obviously, you wouldn't call it something like that, but I'll call it that just for fun. Uh, Running it takes a couple of minutes to run. Anyway, here's one that I prepared earlier. This is called Mason test. Um, Basically, when create React app does its thing, you'll get a application sitting. You actually see it here. Where is it? Sandbox 2? No. Hi, Alex. This one here. That's still loading at the moment. But once that has loaded, it's basically going to look the same as what this one looks like now. Except this green one here. Ubindi example is one that I added. So you'll come with this. You've got an application. You can run npm start. It's documented in the README, by the way. npm start. It will then start a development server in Node to render this app. This is my Magicraft version 3. It's currently running on that port, so now here it is here. So when you start it up, initially you won't have this component because that's something I added. It will look like this. I changed this text, hello Alex. If I can add a few exclamation points there, save, automatically updates in the browser. This is basically a boilerplate React application that you get almost for free by running npm create React app. So highly recommended way to test stuff quickly in React. React's actually not as hard as all that. So yeah, I created a new component basically following the documentation in Mason. So once I click through, let's go back. I'm sure you've tried this already. Try Mason. I created a new project. I called it test. Very creative. And then I created this example component. I can create a new one here as well. New feature. Choose from a template. What do we like? Maybe this one here. Call it Ubindi. What was that template? Let's have a look. Sign in. Okay, so it's a sign in component. So I'll call it Ubindi sign in. I'm just going to use that casing because that's standard in React. Oh, yeah, so there's my sign in form. Just change it because I noticed that you have to make a change and publish it for it to show up. Yeah, sign in here. Yeah. Publish. Okay, so let's do this. So we'll go in here into my source directory, add a new file, we'll call it Ubindi signin.js, and then I'm gonna click this button up here, which is how to actually install it. So the first thing you need to do is install the Mason library package. I already did that earlier. Just run that command in the context of your application. Then you have to run this init, which I already did. So you import Mason from Mason library, and then you implement this life cycle hook in your React component. So this is my main React component. Lifecycle hook, component did mount. I'm going to call it basically calls the Mason API and establishes a connection. So if I comment this out, actually, check now, can't do it. Red. Check now, has. So basically that's established the connection there. Next thing I need to do is basically create a canvas component. The canvas component basically renders a component that asynchronously fetches the Mason managed content, managed in the Mason builder thing there, pulls it into your application. So let's go into our Ubuntu sign-in. We need to import canvas from Mason library. We also need React, so we'll pull in React. This is not named correctly. There we go. We need to instantiate it as a component. Ubindi sign in implements the render method, and then we need to return default and the name of the component. Ba-ding. No, sorry, export, not return. And then we can import this into our application. So import from local Ubindi sign-in. So then I'll whack this in here. So let's just have a quick look at that again. All that is, it's rendering this canvas element with a ID, and that ID you'll see is the same as this. Oops, it's the same as this ID here. It's the same one. So that's a component ID. So next step, that's it. Now it's just got troubleshooting and stuff. So that should work. Here's my React app. Look, there's a sign-in widget. It's a bit narrow. I'd probably have to add some CSS to that, which we can do. So let's do this. So this canvas, we'll call it Ubindi sign-in. Oh yeah. Need to wrap this. So now what we have, if we look at the actual markup here, what we have is a application with the Affinity sign, and that's that class that we've wrapped this thing in. So now what we can do is target that with CSS. We'll just use the app CSS file for now. This is actually basic CSS. Let's put a width. Let's make it min width actually. Min width 800 px. See what happens. Yeah, okay, so now it's wider. So that's pretty cool, you know, like you can render this thing into your application and now you manage that. You manage that in here. Like, check this out. If I go done, so this is back to the builder view. So say like I don't know, what can we do here? Styling container. Background. Upload an image. What is then? Let's take a live dangerously. Assume it's still uploading. What was that? Okay, it's an ibis. There we go. So that renders in there now. Publish. Are you ready for this? Dude. Pretty good. So, what do I think about that? Okay, so I think it's great for someone like you who wants to try things, move quickly, not be held up by developers who add things to their list of things to do and takes ages to get shit done. I know that annoys you. So it's definitely good for allowing you to like build your website. I also think that the overhead to actually refactor those into proper React components later is perfectly doable. So I think you could, if you followed like a kind of MVP methodology, you could try all sorts of things and anything that works really well, if it made sense to only, refactor them into React components. And yeah, there'd be fairly seamless crossover there. Another thing to consider is that these components, you can see if we go back to this app, this is implementing the component did mount method. That means when this component mounts into the browser, it's then going to do this, which is make the call, connect, then it's going to asynchronously load that content onto the page. So that means that for a, like, this is a React app. That's a view page source. Boom, there's nothing here. This is the root element of the application. If we go back to this index.js, this is the very like entry point of the app. It's saying find the element with the ID root and React DOM render this React component called app, which is importing from this file that we were looking at before. So that means that, like, for example, a crawler like Google or something like that, it will just see this. And there's nothing interesting to index on this page, so you're not going to get search engine optimization benefits from those components. There may be a way around it from server-side rendering the React. But having said that, I'm not sure if you can server-side render these Mason components. So that's just one consideration. Um, just means that any content that's important to be indexed, you want to be rendered on the server and delivered to the client pre-rendered, so search engines can index it. Yeah, I mean, what more can we say, really? It's a pretty cool tool. It's not like you become deeply invested by playing with this. It's like easy to back out of, easy to take what you've done and refactor it into components. But I don't see any reason not to use a tool like this, if not this, to allow you to rapidly iterate and not be slowed down by development life cycles, basically. Yeah. I don't see any major cons. I hope that helps. Interesting to hear that you're renaming the company. I'd be curious to know more about that Ubindi name and where and why and so forth. Yeah, otherwise, hope you're well. Keep in touch. Talk to you soon. Bye.